Hi. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fundamentals for Kids. This is our Friday Facebook Live. My name is Monica Urban. I'm co-founder along with Stacy Erickson for this amazing product that's being released on February 1st. Woo! We're excited about that, you all. We're so excited about the release. About 5 weeks away. So we're busy and we're excited. But thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining this Facebook Live. I know, like you're extremely busy. The countdown to Christmas is here. So we're all racing around trying to get everything ready, the grocery shopping accomplished and all of that. So today's topic, the topic of today's Facebook Live is all about time a little bit. One of the most common comments that I get when we start having discussions about how you make teaching manners and integrity and, honor and empathy and kindness, how you make that a priority in the home. I would imagine that most parents would say, yes, we make that a priority in the home. We want our kids to be kind. We teach that. But what we're finding is that these conversations in teaching these life skills to our kids are not happening on a regular basis in a positive way. So that's what Fundamentals for Kids is all about. But today we're going to actually talk about something that you can do that literally only takes 10 minutes a day. Now, I realize if you've got 5, 6, or more children, it could take you a little bit longer, but that's when hopefully you're going to tag team with your spouse, and you're going to kind of divide this up, divide and conquer. But the idea of what we're going to talk about today is the real term is having an interview with your child. We're not going to call it that usually, most of us with our kids, but I want us to consider that every single day we ask our children one-on-one at least one deep question. And so we're going to talk about what these deep questions are. I'm going to give you lots of examples. In fact, after this Facebook Live, I'm going to post a little picture of a list of questions so to help you get started. But parents, let me tell you this. So I'm a mom of 3 boys. My boys have all left the home, and so I'm an empty nester. And if you've ever listened to me talk before, you've heard me say things like, "You're gonna miss it." This is the first Christmas that I don't have my youngest son home with me. I'm so happy that he's married to this beautiful woman, and we love her. And it's his turn to spend Christmas with her family, and they're going to have a wonderful time. And I'm so happy he gets to do that. But I'm his mama, and it's hard. It's hard not to have your babies home for the holidays. And so this idea of time, it's fleeting for us as parents. I've got a lot of friends in the same boat I am now, a lot of empty nesters. We're all about the same age, and our kids are kind of leaving home. And it is something that we talk about fairly often. It's something that is a struggle, us trying to live this new life without our kids home all the time. And so the reason I bring that up, parents, is I know life is busy, and I know there is 1,000,001 things that you need to do every day, but there is nothing on this earth more important than connecting with your children and your spouse every single day. I know you know what I mean when I say, if you and your spouse just go a couple of days where you're kind of passing ships, where you really don't get to have a real conversation with each other because you're just both going in and out the door at various times, it only takes 2 or 3 days to feel a little distant from our spouse when we haven't really connected. And the same thing goes with any relationship, especially also with our children. It does not take long for some distance to grow. And distance between parent and children is dangerous for lots of reasons. And we want to really stay as close to our children as we can. And parents, there are some things that can help you do that. Now, I realize that, every child is different, and you've got children with different personalities and children that respond to different things. And you've got your child that loves to talk and is easy for you to have a conversation with. And you've got a child that is not a talker, and trying to get information out of them is very difficult. So I realize that when I give you this list of questions and these ideas for having conversations with your kids, that it will work differently and won't work as well with some kids as other kids. But what I know is that if you are consistent, if you consistently strive to have these purposeful conversations with your children every single day, parents, I promise you that your relationship will be whole, will be unified, will be loving, there will be trust between you and your child. But as with all relationships take effort and they take time. It literally takes time. And so the best thing we can do is just have consistent time with our kids. Sometimes we think that if we have this real big burst of an event, like we spend a full day on a Saturday with our family and it was a wonderful day, we think we get a false sense of security that big burst of family time will hold our family over for another 2 weeks. And I also realize, parents, that there are certain situations where that's just the reality of your life. And if so, we're going to do the best we can. But when possible, if we can strive to have one-on-one conversations with our children every day, it's the most important 10 minutes that you'll spend with your kids each day. So what I mean by this is that each day, if we take a few minutes, and sometimes we can just say, hey, son, hey, let's go on a little walk. Or, hey, son, hey, come into the kitchen while I'm cooking dinner. I want to talk to you for a second. It can be just that simple. Anytime that we can pull one child alone for a minute, hey, sweetie, come in and sit with mom while I'm sewing a button on. I just want to talk to you for a couple of minutes. That's all it is. It's just bringing a child to us and just sitting down with them. Now, what's going to happen is we've got to look at these conversations in a certain way, and that is having a conversation, a meaningful conversation with our children. What that is we're the parent and they're the child. And we've got skills, conversation skills, and knowledge that they simply don't have yet. It's our job to provide an environment in this conversation where our children feel valued, listened to, and heard. That's what's going to make these conversations fun for your kids. We don't want these conversations to feel like, to our child, interrogations or lectures. So, and that's hard. You all, I'm sure it was hard for me too. And I'm sure my kids will tell you that probably sometimes it felt like a lecture. But I really worked hard to get it to not sound that way. But I just wanted my kids to love to talk to me. I wanted my kids to love to tell me things, to look forward to sharing about their day. And parents, that's only going to happen if we react in a very positive way when our kids share things with us. So let me give you some examples. So this is a conversation where your cell phone is put away, where the TV is turned off, where there are no to very little distractions in the room that you sit down with your child, and you are no more than 2 or 3 feet away from their face, and you're looking them in the eye, and you just simply ask a question like, Well, honey, I just want you to tell me about your day. How has your day been? Or a question might be, did anything really fun happen today? Or a question might be, so tell me, did anything happen today that made you kind of sad? You know what's interesting, parents? Something that I learned, thank goodness I learned early enough to implement these ideas into my relationships, is that oftentimes, regardless of how close of a relationship you think you have with your children, oftentimes they don't tell you things if you don't ask. Like they might have had a really bad day at school on the playground. They might have had a friend that said to them, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And it made them really sad and hurt them, but they don't come home and just say, hey, mom, hey, dad, today my friend Rebecca told me she didn't want to be my friend anymore. Because a lot of times, just like you and I, when something really bad happens, we don't really like to talk about it. You know, we don't want to bring it up. We're trying to kind of push it away. But then all of a sudden, when we take the time to ask a specific question, I was always so surprised at what my kids would share with me when I would ask them a particular question, and then I would have that kind of pit in my stomach like, oh my goodness, if I hadn't asked that question, I'm not sure he would have ever told me. So that's what this is about. This is about prompting our kids to share with us about their life. And I don't mean that you're going to ask all of these questions. I'm saying that maybe each day you're going to ask just one or two questions at the most. But I'm giving you lots of examples of different kinds of questions that you can ask to prompt really purposeful conversation between you and your children. So another question might be, did you see anything today that showed you how much God loved you? Parents, don't you want your kids to know how much they're loved by God? I know I do. And even I sometimes, we all kind of get distracted with the things that are not going right in our life. And sometimes it takes more effort to recognize the things that are going right. And so this is a great question to ask because we want our kids to know with their whole heart how much they're loved by God. And so one of the ways that we can help them to know this is to help them recognize the small and simple ways that God showed them today how much He loved them. And so that's a question I like to ask, what did you see today that showed you how much God loved you? And so it could be something as simple as, my teacher said that instead of our report being due on Friday, we have until Monday. And so it was just a tender mercy that this teacher's heart was a little softened towards our class, that she didn't make us have the report turned in early. Or, today, I was walking on the sidewalk and I saw a flower growing up between the crack of the sidewalk. And it's just, this beautiful little piece of nature. God didn't have to give us flowers, but He did, because He knew that giving us flowers would help our world be more beautiful. And it was purely for the enjoyment of us. Whatever it is, parents, it doesn't matter, but it helps our kids to recognize the little ways that they're cared about, whether their attention's being drawn to a sunset or a sundown or an act of kindness that someone offered them. Another question might be just, what's been on your mind lately? Has there been anything lately that you've been a little concerned about or worried about that you want to talk about? That's usually a question that gets some conversation. Is there anything that you would like me to pray for you right now? Families, I don't know anything that unites a family deeper than when we are praying for each other and when we know that we're praying for each other. So I love to ask that question, is there something I can pray for you this week? something, a concern that you have. And then, if possible, I allow my child to hear me say that prayer for them. I love to send a little text to my one son who's in college right now, and I'll say, tell me exactly what time your final is today, so I can pray for you at that time. Because I want my kids to know that one of my greatest joys is to pray for them and to try to, access the powers of heaven on their behalf. I love to ask what they're excited about. So what are you looking forward to these days? Or is there a good movie coming out that you're excited about, or a new game, or is there some, birthday party that you're really looking forward to? If so, what is it? Why are you so excited? I know sometimes parents, like maybe you've got a 4-year-old and you're thinking, well, Monica, I kind of know everything that's going on in my 4-year-old's life. Parents, no, you don't. You don't. You'd be surprised. And so ask the questions, and all of a sudden you're going to learn these things that your child is facing. I mean, you might be a stay-at-home mom. You might not have any babysitters and feel like you are with your child 24/7. And that's what I used to think too. And then I learned that I didn't know everything that was going on in my child's life. And so ask a lot of questions. We can ask a question, is there anything, this is a hard one, parents, and you might, when I tell you this question, you might go, oh no, Monica, there's no way I would ask my child that question, but I want you to try it. And it's the question is there anything that I'm doing that is causing you hurt? Anything that you'd like to talk about that you wished I wouldn't do? Parents, ask the question. The reason we ask questions like that is we want to give our child a voice. And we want them to know that even though we are the parent, and even if they voice a concern, something that they wish we wouldn't do, but we're still going to do it because we know it's in their best interest if we do, we still allow them to tell us about their feelings. And the more we understand how our children feel, the better we can parent them, and we can be more sensitive to the things that they're concerned about, even when it comes to things like discipline and consequences and those kinds of things. I want to know how my kids feel, because I believe that the more we understand each other, the more we can love each other, the better we can love each other. So that is a great question to let your kids, to ask your kids. I love when we remind our kids by asking the question, hey, what goal are you working on these days? To kind of prompt our kids that, life is about self-improvement and trying to accomplish things, because it makes us happy when we accomplish things. And so it's really great to continuously throughout the year kind of gauge if our kids have something that they're working towards. Like maybe they're like, well, Mom, I'm trying to learn how to play chess. And I want to really learn how to do that this year. Or I want to read the whole New Testament this year. Maybe we can help them with that. Or I want to learn how to play softball. That's a goal I want. And so then we can discuss, well, are we doing everything we can do as a family to help support this child in their goal setting? So that's a great question. Another question to promote a really meaningful conversation with your children is, how do you feel like your relationship right now with your brother is, or your sister, or your dad, or whoever? That's a really good question to ask parents. I know you might already think you know what their answer would be, but it's good to let them say it. And it's a great time to kind of gauge if there's any parental action that needs to take place to help with a relationship that's not going really well inside the family. Too many parents today believe that siblings bickering with one another, they think that's okay. Well, of course kids bicker. Well, of course my kids argue, but that's really not true, parents. It is true that we have disagreements, but just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean that it's okay to bicker, argue, insult, etc. And so whenever we ask a question about our child's relationship with another sibling, it's a really good time to measure and understand if there's any intervention that needs to take place. Another great question is there anything that you've done in the past that you regret that you've never told me about but feel like you should or would like to? Parents, this is an excellent question for you to say, hey, honey, is there anything in your past that you've done that you regret, but you've never told me, and it still kind of bothers you? Because now is a great time to get that off your chest so you don't have to carry that burden of guilt with you anymore. And so to prompt that kind of confession out of your child in a loving way is so helpful. And it's a great way to help your child heal their heart. And, anytime kids hold secrets, it's very damaging to their spirit. Just like you and I, anytime we hold a secret, it's very damaging to us. And so it's so important that we are open and we allow our kids to be open. But when you prompt by asking a question like that, you never know what they might say. So I encourage you to do that every now and then. Another question is there anyone that you feel like you should have apologized to, but you never have? It's kind of the same idea as the previous question, but just trying to kind of get your kids to have a clean slate, because the way that we can help our children to be the most healthy is for them to have a clean slate and to feel like any wrongs that they have committed in the past have been made right. And sometimes kids, with their lack of experience and just their age, they need guidance. Remember, we don't parent just to correct and to teach. We parent to train, to encourage, to cheer on, to help our kids progress. And so as a parent, we're the ones that are just gently guiding them forward, helping them come to their own decisions about how they want to improve their lives. And it's a great way to have really sensitive, loving conversations with our kids. Okay, I'm just going to give you a couple more. Let's see. Would you like me to help you come up with the right words? That might be a follow-up question to one of the previous questions we've asked. And then this is a great question to ask. Do you have any ideas that might help our family become more unified? Or any kind of question where we're asking our children their advice on something we can do as a family to improve. Families, I know that when we take the time, just a few minutes each day, to really connect with our children, that this will give you the relationship with your kids that you want, that you are going to want to have throughout your life. We have to have that connection. Fundamentals for Kids is also going to be a great resource to help you connect with your kids. We're excited about the board games and the flashcards and the storybooks and the lessons. They're going to help you have something to do, something really fun to do with your kids, 10 minutes a day, that you can sit down and do a really fun activity that can help you connect with your kids at the same time, help them learn these really powerful principles that will help shape their lives into lives of success. So I just want to thank you for listening. I want to encourage you to ask questions. Once again, as soon as this is over, I will upload that document with those suggested questions. And, you and your spouse can tag team and you can just each week, let each other know what question you're going to be asking. just to have a kind of organized way about asking these questions. Pretty soon you won't need a list. It's just to kind of help those of you parents that feel like you need a little bit of a starter to help you start asking questions. But once you get in the habit, then it's just going to be human. You're part of your human nature as to your relationship with your kids. I'll tell you, I think once again, if we're very positive and just really try to encourage our kids, this can be a really tender, fun moment each day. I know that I love when my kids tell me things. I love when they call me up and say, "Hey, I want to share some good news with you," or "I want to tell you something that happened today that wasn't real good." Because I love that they feel the desire to share with me a part of their lives. And parents, I know that you want that as well. It starts when they're really young. It starts when we develop this habit of meaningful conversation with them when they're really young. I want you to have a great day. I'm going to let you move on with your day because I know we're busy. I'd love if anyone, let me just go to my little chat box, and if anyone has any question that you'd like to ask, feel free to just type it in the little chat box, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. You can always message us if you feel like your question is a little bit more private. You can always send us a private Facebook message, and we will absolutely return the message. So thank you all. Thank you for joining, and have a wonderful day. Bye.